Hi, as we get to the end of 2023 and we're kicking off a new year, I wanted to give you something to think about in terms of a New Year's resolution that might change your life. I'm talking about adding one element to your diet that will dramatically reduce the risk of multiple diseases associated with unhealthy aging and maybe enough to get you off a couple of prescription medications. So let's kick off the new year on the right foot. I'm Dr. Dave Clayton. Let's get started. Well, the element that I'm talking about today is potassium. Potassium is one of the most important elements in the diet, and it's one that almost 98% of Americans are deficient in. You see, experts say that we should get about 4,700 milligrams of potassium a day, and our ancestors got way more than that even. They got 8,000, 10,000 milligrams of potassium daily. But the average American, the average person is only getting about 2,300 milligrams of potassium a day, which is about a third of what our ancestors got. And that takes a serious toll on your body. Now, why is potassium so important? It's because it's one of the two most prevalent electrolytes in the human body, sodium being the other one. Your body has roughly equal amounts of sodium and potassium, and maintaining equal amounts of sodium and potassium in the body is critical to your health. And the reason is simple. Each cell in your body has all of these pumps covering it that are designed to pump sodium out of a cell and pump potassium in. And these pumps are working nonstop 24/7 to make sure that all the potassium stays inside a cell and all the sodium stays out. And actually, if you look at a blood test, next time you go to the doctor, you'll see that the average sodium level in the blood is around 135 to 140, but the potassium level is like 3.5 to 4. So a tiny fraction of the amount of sodium that you find in the bloodstream. So what we see is if we look at the inside of a cell, it's about the opposite. So you'd have a super high concentration of potassium and very little sodium. Now, why this matters is that ratio or gradient across the cell membrane gives your cell energy to bring in protein or glucose or other nutrients simply by opening up a channel and letting that current of sodium back into the cell, and along with it bringing in important nutrients. So your body works really hard to maintain equal amounts of sodium and potassium, and it works really hard to make sure that they're where they belong in your body. Now, the average diet today gets about 2,300 milligrams of potassium. However, back in the day before we started processing foods, our ancestors got a whole lot more. They got about 8,000 or 10,000 milligrams of potassium daily. And the amount of sodium in the environment was a lot less than it is today now that we're adding sodium to foods. In fact, today it's common to get 2, 3, or 4 grams of sodium daily. But back in the pre-agricultural era days, pre-industrial days, that number was closer to 700 or 800 milligrams of sodium in an all-natural diet without salt added. So back in the pre-agricultural days, our body had a real problem. We were getting anywhere from 5 to 10 times more potassium than sodium, but we needed to retain equal amounts in the body. And that's where our kidneys come in. Our kidneys evolved to be a really efficient filter to let the potassium leave the body and to hold on to sodium, which was relatively scarce in that all-natural food diet. Well, what happens is over millions of years of evolution, you've got this highly evolved kidney that's great at filtering in sodium and out potassium, but now a lot of us are getting more sodium than we are potassium. So our kidneys are struggling. They're not designed to hold on to potassium. They're not designed to let sodium filter through. And over time, over the 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years on the planet, your body systems start to fail. And we end up with a lot of chronic diseases that can be prevented or reversed simply by changing the ratio of sodium and potassium, and importantly, by increasing the amount of potassium in our diet. So what are those conditions? Well, we've got chronic kidney disease for one, kidney stones, hypertension is a big one affecting 70, 80% of older adults, osteoporosis, heart disease, stroke, all are linked to low levels of potassium in the diet, and the incidence of these conditions all improves if we add potassium back to the diet. In fact, you can see significant reductions in blood pressure, up to 10 or 15 points of blood pressure reduction simply by adding potassium. And you can see a 40% reduction in your risk of stroke by increasing potassium. And I've got a lot of other videos on these topics, and I'll leave some links in the description where you can see all of the research out there on the power of adding potassium to the diet. So as we get into the new year, I would encourage you to think about making a New Year's resolution to add more potassium to the diet. And if you do that, you might be thinking, how am I going to go about it? And the good news is that it's relatively easy to add potassium to the diet simply by getting back to all natural, unprocessed foods. A quarter pound of meat or a medium fruit has about 300 milligrams of potassium per serving, and a cup of vegetables can have 400 or 500 milligrams of potassium per serving. So over the course of a day with breakfast, lunch, dinner, and snacks, you can easily start to hit numbers like 4,000, 5,000 milligrams of potassium daily. And if you're looking for more tips on how to increase potassium, I encourage you to go to my website, daveclaytonmd.com, where I've got a lot of great information on nutrition as well as supplementation to bump up those potassium levels safely and effectively so you can see these results in this year. So I hope you have a great 2024, and thank you for watching my videos. It's a pleasure to do them, and I wish you the best for a happy new year.